September 10th, 2019 is a very important night in North Carolina Republican Party politics. First two reasons are that there was a special election held in the 9th Congressional District, which stretches from just east of Charlotte to just a little bit east of Fayetteville, which was won by Republican Dan Barry. There was also a special election out in the eastern part of the state in Congressional District 3, one that goes all the way from Corolla and curves around the east coast of North Carolina until you get down to just south of Camp Lejeune. And it was also won by a Republican, I might add, Republican Dr. Greg Murphy. Remember, Doctor, remember that. But what I really want to talk to you all about is what happened in the center part of the state in Chatham County, North Carolina, and that is a candidate forum for the 2020 Republican primary that will be held in March. The very first forum where most of the candidates who are partaking in this primary for the Republican nomination spoke. If you don't know anything about Chatham County, a lot of you probably know Chatham County because Chatham County is Savannah, Georgia, but remember we're talking about North Carolina here. Chatham County, North Carolina is just a little bit due west of Raleigh, and it's just a little bit south to southwest of Durham, and it is about 30 miles southeast of Guilford County, Greensboro area, where I live. This county, you can divide it right in half, pretty much. The east side, you have a lot of the liberals from Chapel Hill and from the Raleigh suburbs on the east side of the county, from Pittsboro east. And then west of Pittsboro, well, you're in God's country. Good conservative Bible Belt people on the west side of the county go from Pittsboro, southwest of Harper's Crossroads, and then up north, just a little bit north of Siler City is the good part of Chatham County. Overall, it is a Democratic-leaning county, but the rural area has gotten a lot more red, so the county is now going from a lean blue county into more of a toss-up county, which is a good thing to see for those of us who are fans of the Republicans, as I am. Okay, so candidate forum, it was on Tuesday, September 10th, as I said before, and it was held at this place called Farrington Village, which is just a little bit north of Pittsboro in Chatham County. It's a very nice, it's a planned community. It was built back in the late 70s. Very well taken care of, though. I went there and I thought maybe the place was like no more than 10 years old, but apparently it's been there since the 70s, believe it or not. It sort of has that New England Cape Cod kind of feel, which I'm sure attracts a lot of transplants from Massachusetts, and probably not too many of them vote Republican, unfortunately, but oh well. So this event was held in a barn, actually, and no, it was not like a dirty farmer's barn. It was a very nice restored barn. You know, it had AC, light, and all the modern conveniences, but still the architecture is very nice. Got there about 6:40-ish. The event will the doors open at 6:30. The event started at 7. Actually, believe it or not, started at 7:18. A little late for some reason, but won't hold it against them. But it was neat if you got there before the 7:18 start time, you were able to walk around the perimeter of the barn of the seating area of the barn and see all the various candidates and their table and get some literature and everything. Very nice, and everybody's very friendly. Some of these events I go to, I'm 33, but I look like I'm about 21. Some of these events you go to, and it's like, you're, oh, well, you're some young, dumb kid. You don't give a damn. But no, everybody here was very friendly, very nice to me. I was probably the youngest person there, but there's a lot of 50, 67-year-olds there. But, hey, look, I'm a concerned voter. And look, you shouldn't wait until you're 56 years old to become a concerned voter. You should become a concerned voter as soon as you turn 18, or even before that. Start studying politics when you're in elementary school if you can, okay? But this is the very first forum of the 2020 primary season. There was a lot. The thing about this forum, and if there's anything I have to criticize on this forum, was that there's a lot of breadth to it, but there wasn't a whole lot of depth. What I mean by that was they had a lot of candidates here at this forum, but you could only speak for 4 minutes. And, when you're given 4 minutes to speak, and you can only speak once at this entire forum, there are no questions taken from the audience, no Q&A, no follow-up questions. Just talk for 4 minutes and you're done. The problem I had with it was that, you had so many candidates, they could only speak for 4 minutes, and you just, when you speak for 4 minutes, it's the very first forum of the primary season, you're going to hear a lot of the same stuff. Well, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-gun, I'm a good Christian, I'm a family man. Just kind of a record keeps skipping over and over again. Also, at this forum, what I noticed was that they had candidates that were in contested races in the Republican Party, but they also had candidates that did not have contested races, and these candidates were all the judicial races, your Supreme Court and your Court of Appeals candidates. They were able to speak for 4 minutes, okay, but their races are not contested in a Republican primary. In other words, these candidates are going to go right to the ballot in November 2020, and they're going to go against Democrat opponents, okay. Each slot that's available to run on the Republican ticket for the Court of Appeals and the state Supreme Court, all the slots are taken, and there's no, there's not 2 Republicans for 1 seat. Yet, there was, 32 minutes of this forum focused on just judicial candidates. Now, I want to say this, because if I don't say it, I'm going to get chastised by some of you out there for saying, oh, you're trying to downplay the judicial races. How dare you? No, I'm not. Look, these judicial races are so important, okay? And because they're so important, they need really their own 4 minutes per candidate in an event that is bogged down with so many other candidates who are in contested races. These judicial candidates, they should have had another night or something. There should have been a series of forums where you could start on September 10th, and every single Tuesday leading up until Thanksgiving week, you could have a different theme. You could have your judicial candidates, you could have your lieutenant governor candidates, which there are 7 people run for lieutenant governor. Crazy, right? Your Secretary of State, Commissioner of Insurance, Commissioner of Labor, State Auditor, all your council state races. Candidates can be one night, another night, just do a series instead of trying to lump everything into a little 2-hour time slot, But I will say, though, thank you, Terry Schmidt, who's the chair of the Chatham County Republican Party, for putting this event on. Because so far, this is the only candidate forum that's happened. I haven't heard of anything else. And the primary season, especially this time around, the candidate filing begins like first week of December. Okay, and let me tell you something about politics. As soon as election day happens, the first Tuesday in November, second Tuesday, one of those Tuesdays. As soon as election day happens in November, after that, politics, people just tune it out. Okay, politics, everything political grinds to a halt. Okay. Because guess what? You have the holidays. You have Thanksgiving. You have family and friends getting together. You have so many Christmas parties. You're with your coworkers, your family, and your friends. Okay, so you're doing candidate filing the first week of December. That does not make any sense. Okay, but then you come to January and you find out, oh, I guess I have to run now because I only have 2 months until the primary. The primary used to be in May in North Carolina. Now they moved it up to like the first Tuesday in March. It's crazy. So I'm really glad Chatham County took the liberty to put on this event. Okay. So I think I've said everything that you can say as far as analysis and criticism and praise of this event. Now I'm just going to get down to the nuts and bolts of the evening event. The first person to speak was a person who was not on the agenda, and as far as I know, he is not currently in a contested primary, and this person is Mr. Mark Johnson, the Secretary of Education. Okay. Now, in 2016, he was up against, in the Republican primary, a really lovely lady named Dr. Rosemary Stein. I don't know if Dr. Stein is going to run again. We'll see. Do I think Mark Johnson has done a good job? Yes, I do. Do I think he hangs out with people who are maybe not the most conservative in the Republican Party? Yes. Do I have concerns about that? Yes. Is that going to make me want to vote for Rosemary Stein over Mark Johnson right now? I don't know. I don't have enough information right now to make that decision. Pretty much any of these races right now, except for U.S. Senate, and I'll talk about that a little later, I just do not have enough information, okay, to make any concrete decision right now. Okay, sorry, I don't. I just can't endorse anybody right now except U.S. Senate, and I'll get to that a little later, but everybody else just can't right now in the Republican primary. But Mark Johnson says, tax dollars need to go to classrooms. The Department of Education become a lot more efficient. And they're responding to needs. They're trying to boost early childhood literacy, and they are going to hopefully, depending on what the budget happens with the budget. Right now the House passed the budget. They had enough votes to override the just despicable Governor Roy Cooper's veto. Don't know if it's passed the Senate yet, but if it does, there's going to be enough teeth there to allow county school districts to opt out of Common Core math. Okay. Then we have our first candidate who was actually on the agenda. That is Ronald Pierce, who's running for insurance commissioner. Now, it should be noted that we currently already have a Republican insurance commissioner named Mike Halsey. Okay. here's the thing about it. I am happy with my car insurance rates. I don't have any other insurance right now. Well, health insurance, but that's a little bit different story. Car insurance, I'm happy with my car insurance. It's half as much in North Carolina as it costs in Florida. But I have to tell you, this Ronald Pierce is a very sharp guy, so I don't know. I don't know who I'm going to vote for on this, but he talked about the commissioner of insurance. He is a general contractor, and for that he was a aircraft mechanic. He has lived for the past 32 years in Charlotte. But he talked about what the commissioner of insurance is, because a lot of people don't know what the commissioner of insurance is. They're the chief fire marshal of the state. They're in charge of bail bonds, building inspections, workers' comp, and financial. What's it say? Yeah. Finance litigation or something like that. And look, Ronald Pierce said very pointedly, said they will follow the law or I will spank them. And one problem that Pierce has seen is that there have been fake death certificates being issued for the past 20 years. It's crazy. And he actually knows insurance law. And he says, what, somebody who's doing the job should know, somebody should know the law of the job they're seeking. Now we have Michael Paglia. I've talked about him so many times, I'm not going to repeat myself. But I think he's a good candidate. I don't know if I'm going to vote for him, but it looks pretty good. Michael Paglia, remember, Secretary of State, the second time he's running. Got 48% of the vote, came very close to beating Elaine Marshall, the closest any Republican has come since 1996 when race car driver Richard Petty actually ran for Secretary of State. Chad Brown is also a candidate for Secretary of State. He is a Gaston County Commissioner, former mayor, and he is really into small business innovations. 31 companies, yes, 31 companies have come to do business and provide jobs in Gaston County over the last 9 years. Again, 31 companies, very impressive. And he says, look, a robust economy is the only way to move North Carolina forward. I agree. Tax breaks in year 1 to 3 for new businesses is great. I agree. Just, the tax breaks, there's hope. She's not talking about incentives. Oh, yeah, and he also used to play minor league baseball in the Baltimore Orioles farm system. Cool stuff. We have E.C. Sykes also running for Secretary of State. Small business owner, specialized in real estate activities, has done a lot of real estate in the Research Park and Triangle area. And he was one of the head people in North Carolina for the Ted Cruz campaign. Then Anthony Street, he's running for state auditor. Talked about Beth Wood, has been a 3-term Democratic incumbent since 2008. He said, Mr. Street said, we the people deserve to know where our money is spent. Talked about accountability and transparency. Anthony Street was born and raised in Brunswick County, down on the southeast coast, North Carolina. He has done, he has been a fisherman, oysters, clamming. He holds a master's degree in public administration. He's also studied business and economics. He is now a small business owner in the construction business in Holden Beach, North Carolina. Now we have the judicial candidates, Paul Newby, running for a, before that, let me just say the state auditor race. Another gentleman by the name of Sammy Webb is running. He lives up in the Rocky Mount area of North Carolina. He is a lawyer. His campaign, he's not really focusing on the job so much as auditor. He's more of being he's African American. He's trying to be the mouthpiece for trying to expand the GOP and trying to attract black voters in the party, which I think is very impressive. But does Sammy Webb have the right skill set to be a state auditor? That's a question that you and me as voters are going to have to answer over these next few months. But certainly I give Anthony Street a leg up in the state auditor race. And I'll tell you, think about this. Rocky Mount is about an hour and a half drive from Chatham County. Sammy Webb was not at this candidate forum. Brunswick County, on the other hand, is probably about a 3-hour drive from Chatham County. Anthony Street was there. Not only was he there, he stayed for the entire event. Guess who was at the exits handing out literature about his campaign at the end of the event? At 9:30 at night, I must add, with a 3-hour drive still ahead of him. Anthony Street. Yes, you're right. So, think about this. Somebody's working harder, has the right skill set to be state auditor. I'm tempted to endorse, but I just can't do it yet. I like Sammy a lot, but I also like Anthony a lot. It's going to be a tough decision. Tough decision. Okay. Now we have Paul Newby. Scooby Dooby, vote for Newby. Running for an 8-year term in the state Supreme Court. Tamara Behringer also spoke, former state senator. Phil Berger Jr. spoke. Running also, where's that paper at? I'm trying to get my candidates straight. Phil Berger Jr. also ran for the Supreme Court. 3 candidates for Supreme Court. Justice Paul Newby ran for Chief Justice. Tamara Behringer running for the state Supreme Court Associate Justice, and Phil Berger running as Associate Justice for Supreme Court. Phil Berger said that this election we have an opportunity in 2020. We can swing the court from 6-1 Democrat majority to only 4-3 Democrat majority, and then hopefully be able to flip it to a Republican majority in 2022. Okay, so how bad has the court been since 2016 when it flipped from Republican to Democrat? Well, in 2015, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the business litigation climate in North Carolina was 7th out of 50 states. In 2019, after 2.5 years of Democrat control of the Supreme Court, North Carolina went from 7th in business litigation climate all the way down to 33. 33. So think about it. 25 is right in the middle. 50 is the worst. 33. Not good. Not good. Oh yeah. So what's this business litigation climate Berger is talking about? Talking about permitting issues when you want to build something, a house, a business. Also talking about protecting private property rights, or whatever kind of property issues there are. Okay, Court of Appeals, Chris Dillon talked about, talk numbers. Okay, over the last 4 years, that's from September 2015 to September 2019, the Democrats have lost 140,000 voting members in North Carolina. That's really good. The Republicans have gained 80,000 new registrants in North Carolina, but unaffiliateds, they've gained 400,000. Yeah. Okay. Election statistics. Donald Trump won North Carolina by 3.5 percentage points. The judicial candidates performed at a +6 GOP margin, at least in the Court of Appeals. Now, in the state Supreme Court, it didn't do so well, but Court of Appeals still did good. Oh yeah. Worst case scenario. If the Democrats are able to win Paul Newby's seat, Paul Newby right now is the only Republican on the state Supreme Court. If the Democrats win Paul Newby's seat, the court becomes 7-0 in the state Supreme Court. Okay, they win that seat. The next time the Republicans are going to could have an opportunity to flip the court is not until 2026. Right now, 2022. Okay, so think about that. We're going to add 4 more years on top of that if we don't really get these court races right. Okay, just so you know. Then Fred Gore spoke. Court of Appeals candidate Jeff Carpenter. Court of Appeals candidate Jeff Carpenter is a former trial lawyer, also a former highway patrolman. I found that to be very neat. He's from Anson County, now lives in Union County. So he went from a rural county in the middle of nowhere to a more suburban county just a little east of Charlotte. Jefferson Griffin then had a video clip. And his video was about 4 minutes long, so it fit the time slot very good. And the reason why he had to do a video is because he is serving in the North Carolina National Guard, and I want to salute him personally for doing that. It's a very honorable commitment and thing that Mr. Griffin is doing. April Wood also spoke, and some of these judicial candidates I've already talked about before. I'm not going to, regurgitate the same information again because it's kind of dull after a while, Then after that, we had a 15-minute break. At a lot of these events I've gone to in the past, when somebody says 15-minute break, they usually mean a half hour. But guess what? The 15-minute break was a 16-minute break. It wasn't a 30-minute break. So I want to applaud Terry Schmidt on that as well for keeping good time. Okay. Now we go into more of the council. We have Commissioner of Labor. Travis Wilson was supposed to speak at this night's event. But he was not there. He did not attend. I felt that was very unfortunate because Travis Wilson right now is my favorite candidate for Commissioner of Labor. Big reason why is he was involved in ministry. He was involved with the Wycliffe Biblical Translators. That's this group that goes around the world and they translate the Bible into all these different languages. So everybody, regardless of what your culture or what language you speak, you can read the Bible. It's a great thing. Also, Travis Wilson has worked for the last 10 years in retail. I think he's started as a stock boy at Family Dollar or something. So he tells a really, really interesting, good story of blue-collar conservatism. But Travis Wilson was not at this event tonight. There's another candidate who is I can't talk. There's another candidate that's an establishment candidate. I don't know their name, but they're an establishment. In other words, they're inside the Raleigh political hack. Okay. But there's one good candidate who attended the September 10th forum. Her name is Pearl Burns Floyd. Okay, she's an African American lady, very nice lady, who grew up in Dallas, North Carolina, which is just a little bit north of Gastonia. You don't know where Gastonia is, that's just a little bit west of Charlotte, okay? She has worked for many years as a cancer detection specialist. She has experience with implementing safety procedures in hospitals and medical centers. She's a former Gaston County Commissioner as well as state legislature. And her goal is to help companies become safer places, which is really, she's talking. She's one of the very few candidates at that event on September 10th that actually talked about what the job she's running for and what the qualifications are. As you can see, Mrs. Burns is very qualified. Oh yeah, and this was her first public appearance. She just declared her candidacy back on the night of September 9th. Okay. Now we're going to get into probably my favorite race, and that's Lieutenant Governor. Mark Keith Robinson. If you never heard Mark Keith Robinson speak, he is very good. He's the kind of speaker that if you're busy doing something, you start hearing him speak, you'll drop everything and you'll want to listen to him. Very good. He comes from humble beginnings. He's one of 10 children, and his father was an alcoholic. He says, our Constitution is nothing without the Second Amendment. He's a huge Second Amendment activist. He sort of burst on the political scene just about a year and a half ago when he went to not a Wilmington City Council. Robinson went to a Greensboro City Council meeting to protest, speak in opposition to the Greensboro City Council trying to say no to having a gun show at the Coliseum here in Greensboro. And Mark Robinson, well, he got them to keep the gun show at the Coliseum. It was a very, very good speech. You can go on YouTube, type in Mark Keith Robinson, Second Amendment activist, and you'll be able to. It's a nice 4-minute speech. It's for right to life, and he says, look, are we going to indoctrinate our kids, or are we going to teach our kids, right? He wants to stand up for our police, firefighter, and military as well. Also says there should be no Common Core, but says there should be parental choice in education. Look, I like Mark Keith Robinson as a person. I really do. And he was a huge supporter of Jim Womack earlier this year when the state Republican Party had their election for chair and vice chair. He was the first person to speak in favor of Jim Womack, and he did a wonderful job. Him and I also went on this bus trip with Freedom Works, actually just about a year ago now. He's very supportive of conservative values. He's very supportive of the Tea Party movement as well. The one now you may think, well, why am I not on board yet with Mark Keith Robinson? The one concern I have with him, and it's a fairly minor thing, okay? It's not a deal breaker, but his position on the Second Amendment, okay, in a statewide race might hurt him in the suburbs, and especially in the big cities, being a steadfast supporter of the Second Amendment, instead of being more of a pragmatist like I am. Look, let me tell you something. I support the Second Amendment. I do. Okay? However, if, but I actually support expanded background checks. Oh my gosh, I'm a rhino. Come on, y'all. Seriously. The Second Amendment is an issue that both parties need to get their head out of their butts. They do. Look, let me tell you something. To the Democrats, you're not going to be able to take people's guns away. Beto O'Rourke, you're not going to be able to knock on people's doors and say, give me your AR-15. No, you can't do that. But to my fellow Republicans, we need to really be a little bit more compassionate and have more, understanding of the victims of gun violence. And when you understand that, you can't walk around Walmart with 15 rifles on your shirt, okay? You just can't. Now, should a person be able to carry at least one gun with them at all times? Yes. But what's wrong with a person, okay, saying that, look, you're a law-abiding citizen. You have absolutely nothing to hide. But we want to make absolutely sure that you are fitted mentally and physically capable of being able to have a gun. What is wrong with that? Seriously, okay? That's our Second Amendment talk for today, okay? Sorry going off on that tangent. Next candidate was Deborah Cochran. I've talked about her before. A Renaissance woman. Very impressive resume. She's been a business teacher, a mayor of Mount Airy, also been a radio broadcaster, too. She also spoke about Buddy Bengal, who is another candidate for lieutenant governor. He's somebody who I'm very curious about. I like to know a lot more about Buddy Bengal. He is lives in the New Bern area out east, and he is owns a couple restaurants. He owns one of the minor league baseball teams out there as well. But he actually could not make the September 10th event. He was actually working the polls for Dr. Greg Murphy, and want to salute him for that too. John Ritter, no, not the person who was on Problem Child or 8 Civil Rules. No, not that John Ritter. He's long gone. But John Ritter from Moore County also spoke as a candidate for lieutenant governor. I've talked about him before too. Okay. There is one dangerous candidate in this group. Danger. Why on earth is she running, first of all? And why on earth, 6 months later, is she still in this race for lieutenant governor? I'm talking about Renee Elmers, okay? Now, what she said on September 10th was hogwash, but I'm going to talk to you about it anyway, because apparently there are too many of y'all in the Republican Party who still think Renee Elmers is a good candidate, and she's not. She's not at all. She says, I went on the hands off my healthcare bus tour. I ran for Congress as a Tea Party champion. True, Renee. But then, as soon as you got to Washington, you turned into a rhino, okay? And then I'm talking about, I want to move to more conservative values. I'm like, what? And then she talked about education, workforce development, pro-life. Okay, these are good things, right? Okay, and then she said we got a swamp in Raleigh. I'm like, well, you know, Renee, we have a swamp in D.C. also. And you know what you did when you were Congresswoman? You went right into the swamp, and instead of trying to kill the muck and the mire, you jumped into the muck and the mire, and you created more muck and mire in the swamp. You made the swamp in D.C. worse. So how dare you, Renee Elmers, say we got a swamp in Raleigh and you're rowdy against it when, you know, Congresswoman in D.C., you played in the swamp. You played in it, Renee. You played in it. Oh, yeah, and then she says she wants to work on healthcare solutions, which, coming from Renee Elmers, a rhino, that means she wants to expand Medicaid. So remember, if you dare vote for Renee Elmers, I'm coming after you. Seriously, if you vote for Renee Elmers, know that you're going to have to start making more money, because your taxes are going to go through the roof, because Renee Elmers wants to expand Medicaid. Now, she won't tell you that, but listen very closely when she talks about her healthcare solutions. They all point to Medicaid expansion, which is very expensive, as Mr. Dink from Doug would say. Okay. Greg Gephardt, who apparently is the new establishment candidate in this race, but he's actually fairly impressive, I must say. Comes from humble beginnings. He used to live in a trailer park with his mom. His mom only made $20,000 a year. Didn't know where their next meal would come from until the food bank delivered it. His freshman year of college cost $20,000. He got the bill for that. Said, "I can't do this anymore." So he enlisted in the army. He didn't look to the government to bail him out. Now he serves as a PTA president. He's involved in his daughter's second grade education. His daughter's starting a new class this week called Social Thinking. And then he said, guess where Dad's going tomorrow? He's going into that Social Thinking class and seeing, hopefully it's not an indoctrination of socialism. The daughter said that night, "Be smart, vote for Gebhardt." That's pretty cool. Scott Stone, another candidate for lieutenant governor, former state legislature, and also ran for mayor of Charlotte twice. So he understands urban politics, obviously. Also has a degree in civil engineering, is an engineer. So yeah, he understands transportation. Seems like a pretty cool guy. Now he runs his own engineering firm, so he knows how to write a payroll. That's something that Bernie Sanders, Roy Cooper, Renee Elmers, they just can't do stuff like Scott Stone does now, can they? He is for common sense legislation like the Born Alive Act. Oh, and then he did something really cool. He localized his speech, something that none of the other candidates on September 10th did. Talked about Chatham Park, which is a big development in the southern part of Chatham County near Pittsburgh. Also talked about the Pfizer plant growing in Sanford, and said right now that Chatham County is blue county. It's only about 25% GOP, but the unaffiliated are a third of the vote, and there's a big opportunity to grow the party in Chatham County. And Scott Stone said vote for him because he's a rock solid conservative, right? Get it, Stone, rock solid conservative. Then we have the gubernatorial primary. First candidate up is Mrs. Holly Grange. She served in the Army, was an NRA rifle instructor, also an NC concealed carry instructor, and a lawyer. Has a bachelor's degree from Westport and a master's degree in systems management. She has lived in Germany as well as 11 other states and was a military kid. She did graduate high school in Fayetteville, and for 10 years now she has lived in Wilmington. She is a state legislature in the state house. She is chair of the House Banking Committee as well as chair of the Election Ethics Committee. Okay. She says she contributes to a community. She is not a spectator, and she voted to cut taxes for 99% of North Carolinians. She has been noted as a jobs champion by the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce. She also voted for the ICE bill. She is pro-life and says we need leadership in Raleigh, not just a vetoer. Then we have Hal Weatherman, who spoke on behalf of gubernatorial candidate Dan Forest. He said Dan Forest could not be at the forum tonight. He had 3 commitments. 2 were out in the east side of the state, and 1 was out in the west part of the state. Very busy guy. Dan Forest in the early 90s started as an intern and worked his way up to become president of the state's largest architectural firm, which is a $70 million business. Wow. In 2012, Dan Forest ran his race for lieutenant governor by 6,000 votes. In 2016, he won his race by 300,000 votes. Wow. He got more votes in North Carolina than Roy Cooper or Donald Trump. In 2012, he had 245 volunteers, including yours truly, to help in his lieutenant governor campaign. In 2016, he had 6,000 volunteers. Unfortunately, I lived in Florida in 2016 and was not able to help Dan Forest in his lieutenant governor race. It should be noted that I am currently, I don't know who I'm going to vote. I'm currently on the side in the gubernatorial race between Grange and Forest. And the major thing with Dan Forest is he's run a positive campaign, almost a very Reagan-esque, very good campaign that doesn't focus on skin color or zip code of a person. And then we heard from Julianne Edmunds, who is the spokeswoman for the Mark Walker campaign. She said Mark Walker serves as chairman of the Prayer Caucus. Which is not a surprise because he was a Baptist preacher for a long time in Greensboro at the Lawndale Baptist Church. He serves on the House Housing, Labor, and Homeland Security Committees. He is a sponsor of the legislation Prisons to Prosperity, which is where an inmate, they go from being a prisoner, and then by the time they get out of prison, they have a job opportunity waiting for them. He also is a sponsor of the A+ Act, which provides more local control of education funding. Okay, now finally the evening wrapped up by hearing from the U.S. Senate candidates. Now, let me say this. Very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate that Garland Tucker, who lives in Raleigh, could not attend the candidate forum on September 10th. I mean, think about it. He would have had no more than probably a 30-minute drive from Raleigh, right, to get to Farrington Village. Also, Sandy Smith was not at this candidate forum either. Tom Tillis, the incumbent candidate, Tom Tillis, he provided a video, okay? Sometimes in politics, it's better to just be quiet than not say anything at all. I'll say this about the Tom Tillis video was, in my opinion, very disrespectful. It was very short. Jefferson Griffin's video was about 4 minutes long, and he really did a good job. He went into, why he wants to, be a what office is he running for? Why he wants to be on the North Carolina Court of Appeals, what he can bring to the table as a judge, his experience. Tom Tillis didn't do any of that. Basically, his video was like maybe 30 seconds long. Pretty much all he said was, "We need to get Trump reelected. Have a nice day." I mean, Tom. You're doing a video for your base, okay? If you can't fire up your base, you sure as hell ain't gonna be able to fire up unaffiliateds, the soft Republicans. Oh yeah, and what about those weak conservative Democrats? You ain't gonna be able to fire them up either. Come on, man. It's just what a terrible video it was. It's just awful. But another thing that was awful was Sandy Smith and Garland Tucker did not attend this event. But I'm going to tell you, though, in this U.S. Senate race, I like Garland Tucker, okay? He has been spot on with his criticism of Tom Tillis. Spot on about deficits, spot on about immigration, just really spot on. Plus, he is very wealthy, so he has the money to go after Tom Tillis as well. Sandy Smith, she's a very nice lady, lives out in Greenville, but her big issue is that she owns a solar energy business. And I have a lot of problems and issues with somebody who owns a solar energy business. Because a lot of solar energy businesses, guess what? They take taxpayer dollars. And these solar energy businesses turn out to be boondoggles for you, me, and Joe and June taxpayer that live down the road. Okay? Really. So, anyways, that's a wrap. I've talked for 50 minutes. Can you believe that? Wow. Whew. For the Conservative Pelican, I'm Bobby Crawford. Good night.